What if I told you that the most expensive movie ever made in 1959, a film that won a record-breaking 11 Academy Awards, was hiding bizarre secrets that would shock even its biggest fans? From a silent MGM lion breaking 30 years of tradition to a hidden gay romance that Charlton Heston never knew he was acting in, Ben-Hur wasn't just an epic. It was a wild, chaotic, sometimes disturbing production that pushed Hollywood to its absolute breaking point. Stick around because these 15 weird facts will completely change how you see this classic. Number 1. The Silent MGM Lion. Let's start with something you probably missed the very first time you watched Ben-Hur. When the MGM logo appears at the beginning, Leo the Lion does something he'd never done before in the studio's history. Absolutely nothing. For over 30 years, that lion roared before every single MGM picture. Comedies, westerns, musicals, you name it. The roar was the studio's trademark, their calling card. But when director William Wyler screened the opening of Ben-Hur, he made a decision that required special permission from MGM executives. He silenced Leo. Why? Because the film opens with the nativity scene, the birth of Jesus Christ. Wyler felt that having a roaring lion interrupt this sacred, reverent moment would completely destroy the atmosphere. Instead, he wanted Miklos Raza's beautiful orchestral score to begin immediately on the very first frame, creating a seamless flow into the manger scene. The studio executives were hesitant. This was breaking decades of tradition, but Wyler stood firm, and they finally agreed to create a special still-frame version of Leo. No roar, just a quiet lion gazing around while the music swells underneath. Only 3 other MGM films had done this before, but Ben-Hur became the most famous example. And honestly, Wyler was right. That opening is powerful precisely because nothing interrupts it. Number 2. Jesus was played by a missionary. You never see Jesus' face in Ben-Hur. He appears in several scenes, at the Nativity, giving water to Judah during the crucifixion, but his face is always either obscured, in shadow, or shot from behind. This was William Wyler's deliberate choice. He felt that showing Jesus' face would be too risky. No actor could possibly portray him in a way that would satisfy everyone. So Wyler decided to suggest his presence without ever revealing his face. But who actually played Jesus in those scenes? An American missionary who was working in Rome during the production. He wasn't an actor. He had no film experience. He just happened to be the right height and build, and Wyler liked the idea of casting someone whose real-life work aligned with the role. The missionary's identity was kept private at his request. To this day, most people don't know his name. He appears in one of the most famous films ever made, playing the most important figure in Christianity, and he remains anonymous. It's a fitting end to the strange, secretive, fascinating production that was Ben-Hur.
Number 3. Vitamin B injections. The filming schedule for Ben-Hur was absolutely brutal. 12 to 14-hour days, 6 days a week for 9 straight months. People were exhausted, physically drained, mentally fried. So the production team brought a doctor onto the set to help. This doctor offered vitamin B complex injections to anyone who wanted them, claiming the shots would boost energy and combat fatigue. Cast, crew, even director William Wyler himself, everyone was getting these injections. And they worked. People felt energized, alert, able to power through those grueling days. The shots became incredibly popular on set. But here's the thing. Years later, Wyler and his family began to suspect something. Looking back on the experience, Wyler believed the doctor may have been giving everyone amphetamines without telling them. Now, in the 1950s, amphetamines weren't as strictly regulated as they are today. Doctors commonly prescribed them for weight loss, depression, fatigue, often without fully informing patients what they were taking. So if Wyler's suspicions were correct, it means much of Ben-Hur was filmed by a cast and crew who were unknowingly on stimulants, which honestly makes the physical performances and technical achievements of this film even more remarkable, and maybe explains how they survived 9 months of that schedule.
Number 4. Stephen Boyd's Painful Eye Ordeal. Playing the villain Masala came at a brutal cost for Stephen Boyd, and I'm not talking about the physical demands of the chariot race. I'm talking about what he had to endure every single day on set. Both Boyd and Charlton Heston had blue eyes. Director William Wyler wanted them to look visually distinct on screen, so he made a decision. Boyd would wear brown contact lenses throughout the entire shoot. Now, if you're thinking, okay, that's not so bad, let me stop you right there. This was 1958. contact lenses back then were not the soft, comfortable lenses we have today. These were hard, thick pieces of plastic that covered Boyd's entire eye with only a small hole in the center for him to see through. They were heavy, they restricted his vision, and they scratched his eyes constantly. Boyd was working 12 to 14-hour days, 6 days a week. That meant keeping those painful lenses in for hours on end. His eyes became red, swollen, watery, so irritated that production had to regularly stop and reschedule scenes just to give him time to recover. Can you imagine? You're playing one of cinema's most iconic villains, delivering intense, emotional performances, and your eyes are literally screaming at you the entire time. Boyd never complained publicly, not once. He just pushed through the pain and gave us one of the greatest antagonists in film history. Number 5, the longest film score ever. Composer Miklos Rozsa created something absolutely unprecedented for Ben-Hur, 110 minutes of original music. To put that in perspective, most Hollywood films at the time had maybe 30 to 40 minutes of score. Rozsa wrote nearly 2 hours of continuous music, the longest movie score ever composed up to that point. Rozsa took 6 months just to compose it, then another month to record it with the Rome Opera House Orchestra. The music wasn't just background filler either. It was carefully structured to match the film's epic scope, with distinct themes for each character and location. The chariot race alone has 11 minutes of uninterrupted musical tension. That's almost as long as the entire race sequence itself. When the Academy Award nominations came out, Rozsa won Best Original Score, one of Ben-Hur's record-breaking 11 Oscars. And honestly, it's hard to imagine the film without that sweeping, powerful music driving every emotional beat. Number 6, Amputees for realism. William Wyler was obsessed with authenticity, so when it came time to film the galley slave scenes, where men are chained to oars, rowing endlessly in the belly of a Roman warship, Wyler made a decision that sounds shocking today. He hired real-life amputees to play some of the slaves. Why? Because he wanted the audience to see actual missing limbs on screen. He felt it would add a brutal realism that couldn't be faked with makeup or prosthetics. These men were meant to look broken, damaged, destroyed by years of slavery. Now, by today's standards, this feels exploitative. But in Wyler's mind, he was giving these men paying work and creating a more honest depiction of ancient Roman brutality. The galley scenes are genuinely hard to watch. The sweat, the agony, the desperation, it all feels viscerally real. And that's partly because Wyler pushed for absolute authenticity, even when it meant uncomfortable casting choices. Number 7, producer Sam Zimbalist died during filming. Producer Sam Zimbalist, the man who brought this entire massive production together, literally worked himself to death. Zimbalist was responsible for managing a budget of $15 million, over $150 million in today's money, coordinating 10,000 extras, overseeing the construction of 300 sets across 148 acres, and keeping everything on schedule. The pressure was immense. In June 1958, midway through production, Zimbalist suffered a fatal heart attack. He was only 57 years old. The cast and crew were devastated. But they couldn't stop. Too much money had been invested. Too many people depended on the film's success. So production continued under Wyler's leadership. When Ben-Hur finally premiered in November 1959, the film was dedicated to Zimbalist's memory. That dedication appears in the opening credits, a quiet tribute to the man who gave everything, including his life, to make this epic happen. Number 8, Charlton Heston's 16-take struggle. Charlton Heston was a legendary professional, but even legends have their breaking points. There's a scene where Judah Ben-Hur, now free from slavery, returns to Jerusalem and has an emotional reunion with Esther. It's a pivotal moment, Judah discovering that his mother and sister are still alive but now lepers, hidden away in shame. Heston could not nail this scene. Take after take after take, something wasn't working. The emotion wasn't landing, the delivery felt off, the intensity wasn't right. Director William Wyler, known for his perfectionism, kept pushing. Take 10, take 12, take 14. By the time they hit take 16, Heston was emotionally drained, mentally exhausted, and ready to collapse. But that exhaustion, that's what finally made the scene work. That raw, vulnerable, broken quality in his performance came from being pushed past his limits. Wyler knew what he was doing. He'd worked with Heston before on The Big Country, and he knew exactly how to pull the best performance out of him, even if it meant grinding him down first. That 16th take is the one in the final film, and it's heartbreaking. Number 9, the pottery kick obsession. Here's a weird little detail you've probably never noticed. In multiple scenes throughout Ben-Hur, Charlton Heston kicks pottery. It happens during his return to Jerusalem. It happens in moments of frustration and anger. It happens more than once, and it's oddly specific. Apparently, this became a bit of a quirk during filming, either something Heston did instinctively or something Wyler encouraged to show Judah's inner turmoil. Either way, once you notice it, you can't stop seeing it. Film critics have debated whether it's symbolic, the shattering of his old life, the destruction of his innocence, or if it's just a physical acting choice that stuck. Whatever the reason, it's now one of those strange little cinematic details that fans love pointing out. So next time you watch Ben-Hur, count the pottery kicks. You'll be surprised how many there are. Number 10. Hidden cameo. William Wyler's wife and daughters make a blink and you'll miss it appearance in Ben-Hur. They're in the crowd during the chariot race sequence. Somewhere in those massive shots of 10,000 screaming spectators, Wyler's family is sitting there, watching the action unfold. Good luck finding them, though. Even die-hard fans struggle to pinpoint exactly where they are. It's become a bit of a game among Ben-Hur enthusiasts, like a cinematic Where's Waldo. But it's a sweet touch. After 9 months of grueling work, Wyler wanted his family to be part of this monumental achievement, even if just for a few seconds of screen time. Number 11. The chariot race death myth. Let's address the elephant in the room, or rather, the stuntman on the chariot. There's a persistent urban legend that a stuntman died during the filming of the chariot race. You've probably heard this rumor. It's been repeated for decades. But here's the truth. Nobody died. What did happen was terrifying enough. During one of the most dangerous crashes, Joe Knut, son of legendary stuntman Yakima Knut, was thrown from his chariot onto the tongue, the wooden beam connecting the horses to the chariot. For a split second, everyone thought he was about to be trampled to death by the horses or crushed under the chariot wheels. His father, Yakima, who was directing the stunt work, went pale as a ghost. The entire crew froze in horror. But Joe managed to climb back into his chariot and bring it under control. The sequence looked so incredible, so raw and real, that Wyler kept it in the film. They added a close-up of Heston climbing back into the chariot to match the stunt footage. Joe got a slight cut on his chin. That was his only injury. But the myth that someone died has persisted ever since, probably because the stunt looked so impossibly dangerous. Number 12. The secret gay subtext. Alright, this one's a doozy, and it's been debated by film scholars for decades. Screenwriter Gore Vidal felt the script needed a stronger emotional reason for why Messala would turn so viciously against his childhood friend Judah Ben-Hur. Political disagreement just wasn't enough. So Vidal came up with a controversial idea. What if they had been lovers in their youth? Vidal wrote the scenes between Messala and Judah with the idea that Messala's return to Jerusalem was motivated by his hope to rekindle their romantic relationship. When Judah rejects him, choosing loyalty to his people over loyalty to Messala, it's not just political betrayal, it's the pain of a spurned lover. Here's where it gets interesting. Vidal took this idea to director William Wyler, who thought about it and agreed. But Wyler told Vidal to share this interpretation with Stephen Boyd, and specifically warned him not to tell Charlton Heston. Why? Because Wyler believed Heston would become uncomfortable with the idea and his performance would suffer. So Boyd played the scenes as if he were a man whose romantic feelings had been rejected. Meanwhile, Heston performed completely unaware, which actually created a fascinating dynamic. Judah appears genuinely confused and uncomfortable with Messala's intense personal interest in him. Years later, when Vidal publicly revealed this story, Heston was not happy. He strongly disputed the claim and said it irritated him greatly. But watch those early scenes between them again, and you might just see what Vidal was talking about. Number 13. Joe Knut's real near-death fall. But wait, there's more to Joe Knut's story. That crash I just mentioned, that wasn't even the most dangerous moment he faced during the chariot race. At another point during filming, Joe was thrown from his chariot at full speed. He hit the ground hard, and for a few terrifying seconds, the massive chariot wheels came dangerously close to crushing him. By sheer luck and incredible reflexes, he rolled out of the way just in time. The wheels missed him by inches. This wasn't scripted, this wasn't planned, this was a real accident that could have easily killed him. And here's the thing, they were filming with 6 cameras simultaneously, capturing every angle of the race. So when this near-death moment happened, it was all caught on film. Wyler reviewed the footage, saw how spectacular it looked, and decided to keep it in the final cut. So when you watch that chariot race, remember, some of those crashes and falls are real, unplanned, life-threatening moments that just happen to look perfect on camera. Number 14. Steel-lined costume for trampling. The chariot race wasn't just dangerous for the stuntmen, even Charlton Heston had to prepare for the possibility of being trampled. Costume designer Elizabeth Haffenden created a special tunic for Heston with thin steel plates sewn into the fabric. This wasn't for decoration, it was literal armor designed to protect his torso if he fell and horses ran over him. Heston did perform many of his own chariot race stunts. He trained for weeks with Yakima Canutt, learning how to handle the 4-horse team at high speeds. But no amount of training could eliminate the risk of being thrown from the chariot and trampled. So every time Heston climbed into that chariot, he was wearing that steel-lined tunic, just in case. Thankfully, he never needed it. But the fact that the costume department built actual protective armor into his wardrobe tells you everything you need to know about how dangerous this production really was. Number 15. The massive art workshop creating the look of ancient Rome required an unprecedented effort. MGM set up a massive art workshop specifically for Ben-Hur, employing hundreds of artisans working around the clock. Sculptors carved thousands of statues and reliefs. Painters created enormous backdrops and murals. Metalworkers forged armor, weapons, and decorative elements. Woodworkers built chariots, furniture, and architectural details. Everything you see on screen, every column, every statue, every piece of set decoration was handmade by this army of craftsmen. No CGI, no digital enhancements, no shortcuts. The attention to detail was obsessive. Historians and archaeologists were consulted to ensure authenticity. Ancient Roman coins were studied so replicas could be created. Costumes were researched down to the stitching patterns. It took nearly 2 years of pre-production just to build everything needed for the shoot. By the time filming began, the art department had created an entire ancient world from scratch. And honestly, it shows. Ben-Hur still looks incredible today, precisely because everything on screen is real, tangible, meticulously crafted. From silent lions to hidden romances to near-death stunts that made it into the final cut, Ben-Hur was so much more than just an epic. It was a wild, chaotic, sometimes dangerous miracle of filmmaking. If you enjoyed these weird facts, hit that like button and subscribe for more classic movie secrets you never knew existed.